Welcome to It's All About Connection, NVC with Dr. B.
So welcome everybody. Today we have a little twist on things. Usually you see me and my co-host Heather, but today I have invited a guest to our podcast. Her name's Farrah. This is Farrah Sonnenberg, and she is the president of Sonnenberg Consulting. Is that the official name?
Consultants. Yeah.
Okay, Sonnenberg Consultants, and she's been a student in the Big B Method intro class, and I think has had some prior experience with NVC. Yeah, but this is a person that owns a company who's finding NVC to be a very important thing. So I just thought it might be a fun conversation to have, to just learn a little bit about what you do and the role that NVC is playing, and yeah, just anything around that. So I'll let you first explain a little bit about yourself and your company and anything else you want to say about that.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. I'm Farrah Sonnenberg, and I have been working with children with autism, and we work with adults now too, my entire adult life. So at 18, I applied to another company to work with kids and loved it, fell in love, thought there were some things that were missing, so formed my own company. And then here we are. We have a school with 200 students, and then we have 2 clinics that we have hundreds of clients that we work with, working with applied behavior analysis. So that's a little bit about my background. We sit in our values that actually came around in 2020 with our mentor, and really she's the one that introduced NVC to us. And over the last couple of years, we've just really wanted more of a structured, movement forward with how do we teach this? How do we really live this with NVC, and just more background. So do you want me to go into that and how I, kind of got involved with the Big B method and all of that? Or?
Well, for sure, I want us to talk about that, but also I'm just curious to know, like, when you were setting your company, like, vision, goals, values, that's when you said that you came across NVC through your mentor or advisor there. And I'm curious to know, like, what was it about NVC? Like, what was it that you were trying to attain using NVC?
Well, I don't know that I knew at the time, because she was the one, or they, I should say, but she specifically, she was the one that had said, well, I really think what we need to do, because it was in 2020 when the George Floyd stuff, the world, what happened in 2020. And I was having a very difficult time through what to do, how to support employees, how we have a very diverse group. And there was just some conflict that was occurring. It imitated what was happening on the outside, on the inside, really, to be quite frank. And she said, I really think you need to go to a value system. And so we talked about that, sat down with our leadership team, and I didn't really know that it was NVC quite yet at that point. But she was kind of working through that and brought us back to values. And we really started to kind of get the bare bones of NVC and what that looked like, and it was very uncomfortable. So I wasn't quite sure. And, in ABA, we're very, like, it's behaviorally based, and it's very different than, never having an end, or just kind of working on yourself and how, and giving empathy and all the things but I didn't really know all of that at the time. So as we moved through, I was like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. Because it was more value-based. It was more, I don't know, it was just so different. And really in the beginning, I didn't know. So as we're moving through this and as we're reading about it and looking more into it, I wanted something that I could teach. And we couldn't with the way that we were going through it. Values were great. We could embed that throughout the company and everything come back to our values. But how do we talk to people and how do people talk back? And how do we sit down and diffuse really tough conversations? And really,
So can I reflect a little bit of that? Because I want to make sure that I'm tracking. So
yes.
you basically, you like this idea of being values based. So I think what you're meaning by that is for your company to get really clear about like the values, the needs that matter the most for you as a company and probably individuals, right? And for that to be a big part of your conversations when you come together and you're doing work together. Like that's like the backbone, like identifying those and coming back to those. And so you are operating and using NVC to help you have more clarity around those and to be in more connection with one another around the work and those. And what I also think I hear you say is like, that was really good for giving you direction, a pointer, but you really still needed some more skill on how do we go beyond that? How do we actually have communication? How do we stay in alignment with those values in the processes that we're using? Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would definitely say so. And I think the biggest part that was missing for me was, we have a high turnover rate in our field. It's just something that your staff come in and come out. There are a lot of college students, they graduate. There's a lot of movement. So to have everybody, leadership team, yes, can commit and learn, and they're excited about that. But having people come in and out so frequently too, how do we as leaders embed ourselves so we can have communication without other, new people coming in, not having that skill? And that was a big part that was and is, what missing. So that's a piece that it was very difficult for me to get my footing on that. So that's one thing. And yes, we come back to our values, but how do we connect that way? So that connection piece too is, I think, really important. And the other piece that I'm still really learning is that just because you're wanting to connect and give empathy doesn't mean that you're agreeing. And that still is hard for me because it's a process, right? So the more information and the more you live it and move forward with it, the more it's been helpful. So that kind of permission of that too, that I feel like I've given myself and we're giving each other, has been huge to it too.
Yes. So again, I think what I'm hearing you say is because there's a lot of turnover just due to the nature of the work that you guys are doing, and you have college kids that come in and out, even though you might be values focused, you want a core group of people that not just know it intellectually, but live it and exude it, so that when people are coming in and out, they're experiencing it. So they kind of get swept up in this culture, even if they don't know it, they're still experiencing it in a way. And then the other thing I heard you say is like that an area of continuing challenge and growth for you is to just, how do you stay in a place of being able to hear someone, like fully hear someone, but not necessarily agree with them, but being open to hearing them, and then what do you do in a business culture when you're not agreeing with somebody, but you are wanting them to really get that, that you're leaning in and that you're hearing them and that you value what their needs are, and like just trying to juggle all of that, not just as an individual, but as a person that's in charge of a company that has to, and giving yourself some grace that this is a learning process, like maybe having some sense that you're getting there, you're having more clarity, you're knowing a little bit more of what to do with it, but that it's a little clumsy, like it's not perfect.
Yes, all of that. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm kind of at in this journey as we move forward, is giving myself a lot of grace, giving each other a lot of grace that we're learning, and having just really open conversations about, this is confusing, or is this what I'm hearing you say or picking up, or, and that's kind of the language that we're working on at this point.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I'm curious because it is a lot of work, for anybody. And it's a lot of work to commit it to a company or an organization. Most people want quick fixes on, how do I build this company culture? How do we have greater connection? So ultimately we can be more productive. So what I'm hearing you say is like, yeah, it is clunky and it is taking time. So I'm just curious, like, why are you doing it? Like,
that's a great question.
why are you doing it? It's taking time, and like, yeah, like that's a big commitment, and most companies won't do it because it takes too much time, energy, resource. And yet I'm seeing that you seem to be pretty all in. Like, you seem to be very enthusiastic and wanting, and still struggling with it, by the way, too. So just curious, like, what is it that you've learned so far, that you see so far, that makes it worth it for you?
I would say what makes it worth it is we really look at how much we put our thoughts into everything, and how much we interpret everything in the company and just in daily life, how we like to tell people how they feel, which is not what we want to be doing. We want to help people to get to that, like the needs guesses and, and all that, but not telling them. So we've seen a lot of that. And we've seen a lot of staff come to us and say what their thoughts are versus, what really is going on objectively. So that is a huge buy-in for our leadership group, because it slows everything down. It makes you more present to what's going on, that you don't have to put up fires. We don't need to put up 10 fires today. Let's really look at what's going on and stop just strategizing, and really look at what's going on, because the basis of what I feel companies, or what does happen at Sonnenberg, is the feedback of there's too much change. And really it's the strategies that keep changing. And it's changing because we're not getting to the core need of what's going on. So we're all tired of that. The leadership team is tired of that. I'm tired of that, so that's really why, is that I don't want to keep coming up with strategies when we're not really hitting the need of what's going on. And we have to figure it out. What is the need? And help each other figure it out. And that's cool. Like, I'm happy about that. I'm happy that we're really listening and getting the needs. I've just learned so much. I think that's the bottom line, is it's less work if you slow it down and you look at what's really going on and what the need of, everybody's got the same need really at the end of the day. It's just, we have to get to that actual need versus of everybody. Which for us, it's consistency, clarity, communication. It's really all the same. Balance, partnership. It's all that.
I think what I'm hearing you say is that because you have this template to use now, it's really helped to minimize like the day-to-day drama that happens in most organizations. Like, you're seeing more of like this way for people to know what actually is happening and what is that about. Like, so what is happening is the observation, and what is that about is the need, right? When you don't have that as your thing to fall back on, we get very confused about what is happening, and what is real here, and what's my thinking versus what's like it gives you so much more clarity, and then a guideline to use when you're in these conversations, that you're saying you have to slow down, but ultimately thinking that it gives you time, because it's eliminating a lot of the day-to-day drama and misunderstanding that ends up happening oftentimes in organizations. Am I tracking that?
Yes. I mean, we're definitely still in the awareness realm of like, I mean, we've got kind of different groups. So we've got groups that are a little bit more ahead. And I say that loosely because we have a long way to go, but we're more ahead because we're more aware. And then you have some that are just starting. So but they're watching us, like what's going on and what does that mean? And what, and so so it's just by leading. I mean, in ABA, we do a lot we call it model, try, feedback. So let's model it, let's try it, and let's get some feedback, and so that's a big part of what we do. And I'm kind of looking, like I've read almost your entire book now. And so I'm learning a lot from that too, of like some more background and some more why. And so I'm embedding that with my upper leadership team, and they're like, oh, that makes sense. And they're getting more excited. So then they're seeing us get excited. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely still awareness. We're still in it where we have to point out stuff, to each other of like, is that your thought or is that really what's going on? And then they're like, oh, that is totally my thought. That is not what just happened, And so we're really at that stage right now, is just really working through, and we call it accountability. That's a value that we have, is just becoming accountable for ourselves and each other, really. But we're watching it work. And I'm able to model. I had 3 or 4 different instances on Thursday and Friday that I was able to model through. I was shocked myself, to be honest with you, but to see it actually happen. And I think you described it when you were talking to me before, like, and we were all sitting there like, did that just happen? And it was very exciting. So we're getting buy-in too as we're moving along, because we're seeing it be effective.
Yeah. So I love the fact that you brought up about modeling it too, because part of my issue and difficulty in trying to scale this is that it's not the kind of thing that you can force upon people, right? It goes against everything we're teaching to try to force it upon people. Yep. So what it really does require is leader or leadership, like you and your leadership team, getting it, living it, doing it, and then rolling it out from that place. Like when you can be in integrity and modeling it, that is, I think, the only way you can really get this to happen in an organization, by the leader having the vision and understanding what this is, and then not forcing people to do it, but growing in it themselves, and then modeling it, and then offering it out. And so it's really nice. I love that you're doing that, because it goes along with everything that I've experienced on like how to make this successful in an organization or company or school, for that matter, any place like that. And I love the fact of like hearing that, when you actually apply it, and then you see and then what happens is that allows those tracks to get more and more solidified. Like, you're more likely to do it again now, right? I mean, that goes along with behavior stuff, right? You're more likely to do it again because you've just been reinforced by actual real stuff happening in the world. You've just been reinforced, so you'll remember a little bit easier the next time when you're in a conflict situation to apply it. I'm curious, because we should probably be ending pretty soon, even though you had something you wanted to share. But then I'm also curious, just if you wouldn't share what you've gotten from working with the Big B method in particular.
Yeah. Structure, teachable replication. That's a big, in our field too, ABA is, the replication of and repeat. So that the structure really helped. I've listened to your podcast. That's been helpful to hear real life situations here and there, and just kind of hear other little snippets. That's been really nice. And then your book has been more of the background. And honestly, what I've learned from your book that I think is important too is the self-empathy and like like it's a little bit different than even the Big B method. You would just, everything I've just picked up something different.
Mhm.
But the Big B method is, I like it because we have, for lack of better, I don't know how else to say this, but we have quite a bit of type A personalities, and it helps them to structure and make it more black and white, with it not being black and white. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's been helpful because they're like, oh, okay, you know, and then we got to kind of unpack it as we're moving forward. But it just really makes it teachable, I would say. It just gave me a better background, a better understanding. Like I said, in the beginning of the conversation, it was helpful because I didn't know what to do, because we do have a field that new people are coming in all the time, and we're not going to get long-term with people coming in and out. If they're there for a year, I mean, I've been doing this for a few years, not at the Big B method, but I still feel like I don't quite have my bearings. So I'm excited to see what this does moving forward, because now I have taken something structured.
Yeah.
So that's brought.
I appreciate the just bringing up the structure of it. I probably mentioned it on the podcast before that, a good friend of mine who's an instructional designer, as am I, we sat down and did the whole like analysis of the NVC process. And, we had flow charts all over the floor, how all this works together. And then the learning objectives and so all of that was very much built into this. And I think that that's what you're pointing to, as a user, that you're understanding that those were some of the things that were put in place that really, it was completely intentional for the learning process, for the end learning process, right? And I do feel very proud of that, because I think, well, there are so many really good NVC trainers out there. I think we have done a very good job of making it replicable and objective oriented, even though I, at one point myself wasn't even sure that was a doable thing.
It's been nice for us, because then all of our staff get the same information the same way, which is what I was really wanting to do, is give our core leadership that. So that's been super helpful.
And being able to do that, and also have some space for a house, like, because we do have the live sessions and we have the practice groups afterwards. So people can get the same information, but then also move with it in their own personal way as well. So I think
that's really important,
being able to balance that. Anything else that you think is real important? I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do try to keep these short. But just anything else you want to share that you think is important for other business owners, maybe to just take away from this conversation?
What I would say is, the reflection piece is, like, game changer, like how you were just even reflecting back and going, is this what I'm hearing, and all of that stuff. That has been a game changer too, because we'll go into a meeting with 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever people, and in the past they'd walk away with 7 different interpretations of that. So that's been and that's been a game changer, because now we're all really listening intently, because we know that we're going to ask, like, what are we getting out of this? What are we moving forward with? And so that's been a big game changer, because people were walking away with different expectations or different interpretations. So that's a game changer.
So Farrah's also, for our audience, like, there's so many nuggets, so many things that you learn. So that's one thing that we learn. And I've been modeling it here as we go, like reflecting back what I'm hearing someone say. And I've never thought about it in the context of a meeting, a business meeting, using it like that, and how that would eliminate so much misunderstanding, or after the fact, people talking about things that weren't so. because you're making sure people are really hearing it and paying attention. You have this built-in process to make sure that people truly are hearing it and are, on the same page in what they're hearing. So that's really cool to hear that.
Yeah, that's been a game changer and been very helpful. And to make us accountable within that. And then you hear the thoughts and feelings and all of that. And so that comes up in it quite often now. It's just really cool. It's really cool. It brings your team together too, because you really get it. Like, oh, I was interpreting that as whatever, with this feeling or need or thought or whatever. Now we're talking openly. And so more people are participating too. So that's been really cool, I would say.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah. I'm sure there's so many more things. Maybe we'll have you back on at a later point as you're even deeper into your journey and all of this. Yeah.
I'd love to. Yeah. I'm excited to see what a couple months, 6 months brings. Cause every month I'm like, man, I didn't get it. So I could only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll bring you back and see where you are. We'll just be like following you on your NVC journey here and your company. That would be cool.
Reality show.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank
You're
you everybody
welcome.
for joining us. And we're going to end here.
You've been listening to It's All About Connection, NVC with Dr. B. For more episodes and guest bios, please visit us at www.thebigbmethod.com. That's www.thebigbmethod.com. And remember, empathy first.